Welcome back to Sir Ela Philosophy. Episode 13. Morality Connected to Our Physical Existence. Section 1. Thesis-Morality. Paragraph 1. We can make all ideas accountable. We have 7 elements to maintain accountability to all ideas. We can categorize the relationship between the physical world and our thought existence by our 4 relational characteristics of thought existence, shown in diagram 1A and 1B. When we use language to bring any idea to its narrow form, we can then apply this system of thought to bring accountability to all ideas. By doing this, we stay measured against the physical world. Our physical world determines the truth position of any idea. We can identify coercive manipulation from people when they engage in an adhesive framed reference motivated by emotion or beliefs of personally held false reality desires. More importantly, we can then achieve a commonality to our thesis-based system of thought that is independent to human manipulation. We also have a system of thought that has a self-correcting system of thought enclosed. It can self-correct because it measures against the physical world, which is common to all people. Paragraph 2. We can measure our ideas of morality against our physical world. Since our ideas of morality are ideas as well, we can apply the same accountability system to moral ideas. Because morality involves our code of conduct, which is actions to physical existence, we determine our proper code of conduct by looking to our physical world to receive our inputs to moral ideas. Our code of conduct between us is always in relation to humankind. Therefore, we must view the physical realities of human existence. From this, we can determine our code of conduct between one and another. Paragraph 3. When we measure our moral ideas against the physical world, we have thesis-morality. When we measure our code of conduct against the physical world, we determine our thesis-action. When we measure our moral ideas against the physical world and draw a code of conduct from it, we have thesis-morality. This is thesis-morality because we connected it to the physical world. Our physical world contains mathematical equations to our moral and justice conduct. Therefore, thesis-morality maintains balance to moral equations derived from our physical existence. Paragraph 4. We can break thesis-morality for humankind into 2 different expressions. Our thesis-morality for mankind has one source, our humanness, but it has 2 different characteristics. One of our characteristics is termed equal thesis-morality, and the other is termed unequal thesis-morality. Each of our characteristics has an equation and a moral flow of conduct associated with it. It is in the physical aspects of our human existence that our characteristics and expressions base themselves. Section 2. Equal thesis-morality. Paragraph 5. By the existence of the word humankind, we have recognized that within this group we have equality. We can cite Volney, Bibliography 6, page 136, quote, "Whatever be the active power, the moving cause that directs the universe, this power having given to all men the same organs, the same sensations, and the same wants, has thereby sufficiently declared that it is also given the same rights to the use of its benefits, and that in the order of nature of all men are equal." End of quote. Volney provided the definition of humankind that included body and mind to an abstract idea of humankind. We can take it further and show that the essence of humankind resides not in the organs, but in the common consciousness we have between humankind. Paragraph 6. We have a physical equality that exists between all human beings. If we strip away all differences between people, we leave ourselves with our equality. Our equality is the minimal physical existence to which we can classify ourselves as human beings. We can even remove our physical bodies, as we can be human without it in every way except one. We have to have physically our human brain to maintain our human status. Our physical brain is the common structure required for human classification. When activated with awareness and consciousness, holds our commonality between every other human being. Our equality creates a relational equation. That equation is E equals E. That is, our equal equals our equal. We term this physical aspects between all human beings as equal thesis-morality. Paragraph 7. Our physical equality includes our brain that leads us to a human consciousness. In the E equals E equation, we have our common brain that we term human. Our common human brain results in our consciousness. Our consciousness arises from all experiences we have had with our experiential existence. In our experiential existence, we have an equality that is termed human experience. Because we have equality in the experience of experiential existence, this equality overrides any individual differences. We have always sensed this fundamental equation. Paragraph 8. Our physical equality that exists between all human beings has a directional flow of action. Our equal thesis morality flows from the individual person to all other individuals. Each individual has to recognize the equality that exists between all human beings to maintain our thesis equations that reside in physical existence. When each of us reaches this recognition, we express this equality between us and to all other human beings. Even before we develop into adulthood, this equality exists. This equality exists in the physical world. Therefore, it does not change if any individual, child or adult, does not recognize it. Paragraph 9. We, as a community, have a responsibility to bring this moral aspects to the awareness of all people. Because we have equal thesis morality, we have the required expression of it to all people. It is our responsibility as all individuals to bring an understanding to all individuals of this physical reality. We can speak in terms of ideal. Nevertheless, many different physical influences affect the development and the level of understanding between human beings. It is not that we start with any perfection, but seek to move ourselves towards it. Paragraph 10. We have conflict between the ideal versus the practical. Any human society to act morally must attempt their best effort to bring this reality to our consciousness. We need the largest amount of us to have the understanding of equal thesis morality to move us towards the correct moral code of conduct. Ideas measured against our physical reality of equality can bring to our consciousness the proper code of conduct. Footnote 14. This statement is only in relation to our equal aspects as human beings. In the next chapter, Unequal Thesis-Morality, we look at our inequality. Ideas measured against our physical reality of inequality can bring to our consciousness a proper code of conduct as well. We have a relational expression dependent upon which physical characteristics of the human being is being expressed. End of footnote. Let's back up one sentence. Ideas measured against our physical reality of equality can bring to our consciousness the proper code of conduct. We can also know how to differentiate between causes and motivations of people when we violate equal thesis morality. Paragraph 11. Our equal thesis morality is that aspects of our physical existence that affects each of us the same. When someone murders another, we have an action without thesis-based justification. A thesis-based justification is a justification with a connection to the physical world. Without a thesis-based justification, we have someone acting contrary to our physical existence. They are acting as if their human equality is greater than the equality of the other person. The physical world equation to murderous action becomes E is greater than E, which does not match our E equals E. Since we have this mismatch to the equation of equal thesis-morality, we have an idea expressed in action that does not exist in the physical existence. This idea to the action by the murderer can only exist in human thought existence. When we have two injured people of equal physical states exist, and one person is allowed a medical treatment that saves or improves their life, while the other is not allowed the same medical treatment that resulted in their death or diminished capacity, we have the occurrence of E is greater than E. Life is the same for all of us. When we have human-made systems that differentiate between the status and the financial positions of people and create differentiation to our equal to us areas, we have an immoral human system. When we have two people where a large disparity to educational opportunities exists and it attenuates the ability of one to develop and express their individual difference, then we have E is greater than E. When we have a social system where there is poverty and extreme wealth, equal thesis-morality is easily offended. People must have the equal opportunity to express their true potential for any society to be a moral society. Section 3. Unequal thesis-morality. Paragraph 12. By the nature of physical existence, we have within our human existence an inequality. We have recognized our inequality throughout our history. Volney wrote, Bibliography 6, page 336, quote, "This inequality, the result of accident, was taken for the law of nature. Almost all the ancient philosophers and politicians have laid it down as a principle that men are born unequal, that nature has created some to be free and others to be slaves. Expressions of this kind are to be found in Aristotle and even in Plato, called the divine, doubtless in the same sense as the mythological reveries which he promulgated." End of quote. Our inequality surrounds us in our physical world. We have the history that Volney referred to as well as the history that followed him. When we are infants and young children, we investigate our world and discover all the variations that surround us. This aspect of our physical existence makes our differences easy to perceive. Paragraph 13. We have a physical inequality that exists between all human beings. When we strip away all that is the same between all human beings, we leave ourselves with our differences. This inequality is the resultant physical variations that exist between people. These physical variations translate into different behaviors and characteristics between people. Some of our different characteristics are height, body stature, as well as differences between ability to dance, do math, and fix broken mechanical devices, or to create new and novel ideas. When we display our differences, we have a level of variations between each individual. This inequality creates a mean, which in turn creates a relational equation. The resulting equation is mean E equals U plus or minus D. That is, the mean equals the unequal plus or minus the difference. We term this physical aspect between all human beings as unequal thesis-morality. Paragraph 14. Our physical inequality that exists between all human beings has a directional flow of action. Our unequal thesis-morality flows from all individuals to the individual person. Any difference that any individual holds, we can only measure it against all individuals to the individual. Society makes the determination because each member holds a data point of inequality to the individual. As a child grows to adulthood, any inequality is developed and better expressed. This inequality exists in the physical world. Therefore, it does not change if any individual or groups of individuals do not recognize it. For a visual representation of the two different flows between the two expressions of thesis morality, refer to diagram 4a, or as presented here. Paragraph 15. We have a responsibility as a society to bring this moral aspects to the awareness of all people. Because our unequal thesis morality is in relation to all individuals, we have the responsibility to bring it to our attention the correct adjustments to this physical reality. Nevertheless, we have many physical influences that affects our development and our understanding. This expression of unequal thesis morality that comes from our physical world is an ideal. We need to attempt to move ourselves as close as we can to our ideal. Paragraph 16. We can have conflict between the ideal versus the practical. Any society to act morally must attempt their best effort to bring this reality to the consciousness of our society so that the largest amount of people can know to act according to the code of conduct that arises out of unequal thesis morality. Like our equal thesis morality and its equation, we must bring to our consciousness our unequal thesis morality and its equation. Then we can engage in action with the proper code of conduct. We can then differentiate between causes and motivations of people when we violate unequal thesis morality. Paragraph 17. Our unequal thesis morality involves those aspects of our physical existence that affects all of us differently. When we have someone offer a relative a job over another person and they did not measure against their differences, they have disregarded the differences between them. Immoral conduct can occur depending on the existing physical world equations. When our unequal is greater to the person not given the job, and the unequal is less for the relative, then we have ignored our unequal thesis morality and have engaged in immoral action. Our unequal position of the relative becomes greater than the unequal position of the other person. Our you are, R being relative, is presented as you are is greater than you, P being the other person. But the physical reality is the you relative here is less than the you person. To proceed would mean to engage in immoral action. When we have a person of one race given a job over another in employment because of their race, then the measurement is race A is greater than race B. This violates equal thesis morality as it ignores the physical realities of the physical equality between all people. The only time race A can be greater than race B, or any other violation, is when there is a thesis-based justification. An actor playing a role that requires a certain race may have a thesis-based justification. If centuries of discrimination of a particular race has created embedded immoral equations, our governing institutions can respond through thesis-based justifications. Footnote 15. An example of a thesis-based justification to unbalance our E equals E was given against the claim by Milton Friedman that government interference with affirmative action was coercion to economic freedom. This example is in Book 3, under the chapter titled Control of Coercion, Our Release of Freedom and Liberty, in paragraph 6. Paragraph 18. Thesis-based justifications are the result of examination of physical existence. When we have a society failure that suppressed one race over another for a long period of history, we can point to inequities that we have created in our physical environment that led us to unequal opportunity to equal to us situations. We have other equal to us situations where society can create unequal opportunities too as well. Education is certainly one. Societies can adjust to correct society failure, but only under thesis-based justifications that are rooted to our physical existence. When our thesis-based justification no longer fits our physical realities, our physically based thesis justifications no longer exist. We must remove our actions. We have to keep our moral equations in balance. Sometimes we can replace one moral failure with another, as when we deny education and opportunity to a race, and over time, this failure transforms from race to an economic class. Paragraph 19. Our unequal thesis-morality is more difficult to evaluate. Because we measure our differences and not our sameness, unequal thesis-morality requires the evaluation of each and every action and differences over all people. This makes our application of unequal thesis-morality difficult. Despite it being more difficult, it does not remove this physical reality. We must measure against it as a community of all individuals, and as frequently and accurately as possible. Section 4. Equal thesis-morality overrides unequal thesis-morality. Paragraph 20. Our equal thesis-morality overrides unequal thesis-morality. Thesis-morality has its two expressions. In our lives, we have our complexity of social interactions. When we have a conflict occur between equal and unequal thesis-morality, we have to determine which one we follow. Since our equal is the same for everyone, we have a code of conduct that is relational to all people. Since our inequality is not the same for everyone, we have a code of conduct that is relational to one person, or a subset of same difference persons. Based on this physical reality, equal thesis-morality overrides any conflict with unequal thesis-morality. Paragraph 21. We have an example of not understanding the dual nature to morality seen in the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche. He wrote, Bibliography 20, page 120, quote, that what is right for one may certainly not be right for the other, that to demand one morality for all is precisely to encroach upon the higher sort of human beings. In short, that there is a hierarchy between human and human, and therefore between morality and morality as well. End of quote. Nietzsche only saw one side of thesis morality, and that was our unequal thesis morality. He did not acknowledge our equal thesis morality. By viewing only our differences, he chose individualism over equality rather than choosing both. When we choose one side and ignore the other, we are entering into extremist thought. It becomes an extremist view because we move half of our moral equations to the wrong equation. With Nietzsche, we no longer have E equals E. When Nietzsche chose unequal thesis morality only, he chose extreme individualism. He is then doomed to apply individualism to our equality and to create manufactured ideas that can only reside in the human mind, as no counterpart exists in physical existence. This is what Nietzsche did. He went on to create individual type of human beings, and then he created different moralities for his viewed hierarchy of lower and higher types of human beings. He opened up the door for any self-appointed higher types to view themselves higher in every aspect of physical existence, including into equal thesis morality. Paragraph 22. The inability of Nietzsche to view both aspects of thesis morality and his move to focus on only one side was evident in his writing. He wrote, Bibliography 20, page 228, quote, morality in Europe today is herd animal morality, and thus, as we understand things, it is only one kind of human morality next to which, before which, and after which many others, and especially higher moralities, are or should be possible. End of quote. Nietzsche recognized but did not fully understand that one view of morality did not work. Here we have a condescending view of a mass morality. which we can see as a misunderstanding of equal thesis morality. This misunderstanding belongs to both him and those involved with mass morality. This mass morality was not a correct expression of equal thesis morality, but was a corrupted expression of it as well. Nevertheless, all he had to do was examine it. If he had sought to understand the source to this misguided mass morality, clarity could have come to his mind. Nevertheless, he had used an incomplete understanding of unequal thesis morality and misplaced it in the elevation of certain types of individuals over others in all areas of physical existence. Paragraph 23. Instead of his weighting the perception of the two possibilities of thesis morality to how they then interacted, he reacted with what I think was emotion. He clouded his station and position of equal thesis morality by elevating egocentrically a perverted view of unequal thesis morality. He saw injustice coming from people that applied equal thesis morality to situations where they should have applied unequal thesis morality. This has truth in history. Nevertheless, rather than taking the time to understand the mistakes in the mechanics of this, he took a bitter and emotional attitude. This may have come from an adhesive frame reference of seeing and knowing the committed religious injustices around him. He filled his frame reference with emotion, and it skewed his view of physical existence. He did not have a free-flow frame reference and therefore had a denied free will. In this, we can see that his own character betrayed him. To back my statement, he wrote in Ecce Homo, an autobiography of sorts, quote, Bibliography 21, page 16, "I am by nature warlike. To attack is among my instincts." End of quote. Paragraph 24. Our emotion creates an adhesive frame reference and denies our free will to see the reality of our physical world. Nietzsche allowed his emotion and his character flaw to destroy any possibility for achieving clarity. He wrote, Bibliography 21, page 100, quote, "When a decadent species of man has risen to the ranks of the highest species of man, this can happen only at the expense of its antithetical species, the species of man strong and certain of life." End of quote. Here we have the ranking of human beings irrespective to our equality. He was responding emotionally to injustice. The word species implies characteristics common to all humankind, as we are one species. Nevertheless, he chose to split humankind into various species. His fragmentation of the word species also split our equality and made his idea a manufactured idea that can only exist in his thought existence. He then was able to subhuman our equal aspects. His words demonstrated a self-evaluation with contempt for human beings in every way. When we do this, we eclipse our equal to us aspects. He had absolutely no understanding that he was shoving both human equality and human inequality down the same hole. Perhaps he could not accept the idea that he had equality to all human beings as well as inequality. Perhaps he saw himself and loved himself so much that he separated himself from his own species. The harsh, individualistic man or woman seizes this dangerous road just as the harsh communal man or woman seizes their dangerous road too. Paragraph 25. Our emotions not only add to an adhesive frame reference, which denies our free will to see the reality of our physical existence, but it can add manufactured-based justifications and motivations to people that seek power and self-interest. Nietzsche wrote in his Genealogy of Morals, Bibliography 14, page 87 to 88, quote, "The sick are the greatest danger for the healthy. It is not from the strongest that harm comes to the strong, but from the weakest. What do they really want? At any rate to represent righteousness, love, wisdom, superiority, that is the ambition of these lowest ones, these sick ones. End of quote. How can this system of thought bring justice and peace when we measure against this type of thought? Once we break away from one side of thesis morality, whether it is equal or unequal thesis morality, we immediately set up situations for immoral actions to occur. His contempt that came from perceived moral injustices simply shifted injustices from one side to the other side of thesis morality. Our thesis morality can only provide the proper code of conduct when we acknowledge and react to both sides of thesis morality. His higher men became the self-appointed and provided manufactured-based justifications to racists, holders of dogma, and for anyone desiring economic power or government domination. Paragraph 26. Nietzsche never saw our physical world and the one source, two expressions of morality. In failing to see this reality, he viewed morality as relative. When we have relative morality, we attract people with desire to manipulate and those with self-interest independent to others around them. We have given people tools to engage in unjustified coercion. He wrote, Bibliography 21, page 102, quote, "It is a lack of nature, it is the utterly ghastly fact that anti-nature itself has received the highest honors as morality, and has hung over mankind as law, as categorical imperative." End of quote. Our categorical imperative from Kant did not measure against the differences that Nietzsche saw between people, nor did it measure against the vague sense from Kant of necessity, duty, and universality. We may indeed have a universality that led us to a duty to pursue a specific code of conduct. We may, because the categorical imperative from Kant did not spring forth magically from our human minds, but arrived through our free-flow framed reference to our open free will to receive physical existence in its purest form, to which we then evaluate to balance. When have done so, we have seen that we as human beings have a physical existence, and the nature and structure of this physical existence results in our one source and two expressions of thesis morality. That is, equal thesis morality and unequal thesis morality. Paragraph 27. When we have this type of amputated thinking by Nietzsche, people acquire the manufactured idea of individual human superiority over all areas of existence. When we allow people to amputate equal thesis morality or unequal thesis morality from our understanding, we allow opportunities for people to create manufactured-based justifications to their own desired self-interest coercion. Removal of one or the other perverts thesis morality. When people create false realities to their lopsided moral evaluations, they create many additional false realities when they attach other sliver and master ideas to these false realities. People that desire domination and power grasp ideas such as self-interest pursuit of happiness as an ultimate end and a God giving them the deed to the planet and special privileges to pursue their narrow self-interest without accountability. When we have a clash of freedom occur between people, these historical manufactured ideas gave many manufactured-based justifications to coercion against others. The unaccountability of reason and rational thought allowed the creation of many different false realities and provided people tools to commit coercion against others without protection. This then resulted in a long history of loss in freedom and liberty. This ends episode 13. In episode 14, we will cover understanding universal and limited moral possibilities. Thank you for watching Sir Ela Philosophy. If you had liked this, please hit the like button. If you already had, thank you. And remember, lovingly hit that like button.